You might be underestimating me. Wouldn't be the first time. The big drug companies and hospital monopolies have the best lobbyists. I've got bad coffee, a half-eaten PB&J, and a sore back. The big drug companies and hospital monopolies set healthcare prices, and they're
Back in the late 1980s and through the 1990s, Kevin Unk Gray and Rodney Rasu Moore were the top guys in a ruthless DC drug crew that was moving cocaine, crack, heroin, PCP, and marijuana. They were tied to so much violence that their crew was given the nickname Murder Inc. Kevin was also a major crack and heroin supplier and one of the main enforcers in Murder Inc. He picked targets, supplied guns, arranged rides to and from shootings, and paid shooters in cash and drugs once the job was done. And when people in Murder Inc. started getting locked up, he helped them and their families financially, helping with lawyers' bail and living expenses because that kept people loyal and made them less likely to flip. At first, they were the type of guys who used violence to make a name for themselves and earn respect from bigger suppliers. But over time, Murder Inc. turned into something way darker. Kevin, Rodney, and the people around them built such a violent reputation for themselves that other people actually started coming to them when they wanted somebody taken out. A lot of the killings were about ego, power, and keeping their name feared in the streets. Some murders were about protecting the drug business and holding down territory. Others were about shutting people up before they could talk to police. And some were straight murder-for-hire jobs. By the time everything started falling apart, Murder Inc. was tied to at least 29 killings and 11 attempted murders. And after a trial that wrapped up in 2003, which at the time was the longest trial ever held in the U.S. District Court for the District of Columbia, members were convicted of multiple murders and a long list of other violent crimes. Before Rodney Moore built his ruthless crew, he was already deep in the DC drug world. One of the most infamous and legendary names in that world was Rayful III. Rayful wasn't some regular dealer. His crew was described as the biggest cocaine operation the city had ever seen. His business was bringing in millions of dollars a week, and he had around 75 to 100 people working under him. He said that everybody working for him got a cut of the business's profits. In the mid-1980s, he started supplying Rodney with cocaine, and the two of them were seeing each other almost every day. Rodney sometimes delivered drugs for him, and he was around when Rayful would talk openly about his suppliers and how his operation worked. So Rodney learned the game from him. During their time working together, Rodney stabbed a guy who owed Rayful money, and he was also involved in another shooting where nobody got hit. Eventually, Rayful cut Rodney off in 1988, and then 2 years later, Rayful got hit with a life sentence. Kevin Gray had his own connection to that world too. He learned the business from his uncle Linwood Gray, who was accused of running a $30 million heroin ring. By the late 1980s and early 1990s, Rodney was moving crack and heroin through different parts of South DC, and he was not doing it solo. He kept bringing more people into his operation and building a crew around him. One of the guys he pulled in was Kevin Gray. In the beginning, Kevin was basically working under Rodney, selling drugs for him around Robinson Place in Southeast. At the same time, Kevin was in and out of Oak Hill Juvenile Detention Center. While he was locked up, he got close to people like John Buck Rayner and Calvin Smith, who would play a role in their drug operation later on. Kevin also got close to Kenneth Jackson, who was an Oak Hill employee whose house Kevin and Jermaine Pappy Vick later used as a cocaine stash house. Kevin tried escaping multiple times from the detention center in 1990. On February 5th, when he was 18 years old, he escaped by crashing a van through the fence. Then on June 26th, Kevin, Calvin, and Jermaine got out by cutting through a fence. Then again on September 12th, Kevin and Calvin were involved in another escape after an employee got assaulted, locked in a room, and the fence got cut open. Kevin got the tool used in that escape from an Oak Hill employee who was paid $1,000 by Rodney. Once Kevin got out, his relationship with Rodney started changing. It was not a boss-employee. It started becoming more of a partnership. Kevin stayed involved in Rodney's heroin business, but he also started getting cocaine from Rodney and flipping it through his own network, which was getting bigger. Rodney's brother, Derek D.J. Moore, was one of his lieutenants from the early days of the organization. He taught people how to cut heroin with quinine and mannitol. Rodney's cousin, Roy Johnson, was one of the people closest to him. Roy sold drugs for his cousin, including around Ludlow Taylor Elementary
That's
School.
why I really
He also
watched this
paid
though,
killers in
cause
cocaine and helped
Roy,
Rodney
that
and
was my
Derek look for
godfather.
their
That's why I'm
targets.
really watching this shit. Just checking it out.
One of the earliest murders tied to Kevin Gray was the killing of Alvin Henson, who people
Roy
knew
was
as
a good
Flubber.
nigga. I ain't even
The
know he
reason for
was
it
doing
was
all
personal.
this shit, bro.
Alvin beat
That's
Kevin's
how
uncle
you-
in a street fight, and he
Kill,
wanted
I ain't
payback.
even know he was doing
On May
all
1st,
this stuff. I thought he
1989,
was just a good
Kevin
nigga
went
that
to an
had
apartment
money,
on
you
Robinson
feel me?
Street in Southeast DC,
Kill.
a place where
He bought me
heroin
my
users were
first
known to
jersey,
hang around.
Magic Johnson
According to
jersey.
Kevin's
I'll
brother
never forget that
Kenneth,
shit.
Kevin beat and kicked Alvin inside that apartment, and while Alvin was lying there on the floor, he shot him. Alvin's body was found around 1:16 in the morning, and he died shortly after being taken to the hospital. Right before the shooting, Kevin had Maurice Mo Brown Reed get a gun for him, and after it was done, Maurice and Rodney helped Kevin hide. A man named Joseph Melton was inside the apartment and witnessed the murder, and he also ran into Kevin outside as Kevin was leaving. Kevin and Rodney later got Joseph's address through Kevin's lawyer, Mark Rashawn, and went looking for him because they wanted him gone before he could ever become a witness. Then sometime in January or February of 1992, Kevin and other Murder Inc. members allegedly went after the witness and tried to kill him before he could talk. Anthony Lee Dent, who was also known as Fish, owed Rodney money, and he wasn't paying. And according to a Murder Inc. member, Rodney put a $5,000 bounty on Anthony's head. Calvin Smith helped Rodney
See,
and
this
Kevin
that
track
old
Anthony
DC.
down,
You would never
and they
see that
allegedly
shit
even
now,
argued over
niggas.
who was going to be the
These
one to pull the
broken
trigger
shit.
and collect the bounty.
You
Kevin
would
ended
never
up
see
winning
that
argument,
shit
and on
nowadays.
October 9,
man. It's that old
1990,
DC.
they found Anthony, and Kevin shot him to death. Daryl Termite Henson was in the drug game, and he had a habit of shorting suppliers. He and his partner, a guy known as Tick Tick, also robbed George Harris, who sold drugs for Kenneth Sims, also known as Fat Johnny. Fat Johnny controlled the drug trade around Alabama Avenue and
This
Stanton
must was
Road.
all in the paperwork.
During that robbery, Daryl shot George, and the theory was that Fat Johnny wanted get back for that, so he asked Kevin to kill Daryl. But Daryl and Tick Tick had their own problems too. Daryl had gotten a gun from Tick Tick and never paid him for it, and Tick Tick was so mad about that, he shot at Daryl in May 1991. Either way, in the early morning hours of May 24, 1991, Kevin and Larry Wilkerson walked up to a parked station wagon where Daryl was sleeping. Kevin fired into the car and killed him, while Larry opened fire toward a nearby crap game, either to make people scatter or just to create a distraction. Tick Tick had a shotgun that was later found near the crime scene. After the murder, reports said Tick Tick basically went into hiding and was not seen around the area afterward, but that could have meant different things. Not that he might have been involved, but also that he may have been scared he was next, especially since he was a part of the robbery that started the beef in the first place. The violence tied to Murder Inc. kept escalating. Marvin Goodman was a heroin addict who stole drugs from the gang and was shot to death on July 26, 1992. Sean Burton had a lot of issues with Murder Inc. members, especially Larry Wilkerson. Sean was accused of torching Jermaine Vick's car, and on top of that, he had allegedly also shot Larry in the face. That was basically the breaking point. Kevin was going to find and kill Sean. On January 20th, 1993, Larry was driving Kevin around when they spotted Sean's brother Christopher sitting in a car parked in the driveway of a relative's house. They saw this as an opportunity to get revenge. Kevin ambushed him and shot at him multiple times, killing him. Killing Christopher Burton was not enough for them though, and they kept looking for Sean. Just 9 days later, Jermaine raped one of Sean's female friends because she refused to tell him where he was. Then on February 13th, 1993, Murder Inc. members tried to kill Maurice Mo Brown Reed because they believed he was snitching, which he was. That same day, Scott Downing was abducted at gunpoint by Donnie Alston, Larry Wilkerson, and others. They tied him up with duct tape, threw him in the back of a U-Haul, and took him away. The whole thing was supposed to be punishment aimed at Scott's partner for backing out of a drug deal, but Scott was the one who paid for it. He was taken to a highway ramp, shot twice in the head,
They wasn't
and dumped on the
playing.
side of the road. Later on, Donnie Alston pleaded guilty to Scott's murder.
On July 12,
On July 12, 1993, 19-year-old Henry Hank Lloyd was outside Vineyard Baptist Church at 16th
Yeah,
and
my
B
brother
Streets
was
with a
out
group
here
of
when that
friends.
shit
They
happened.
were
This
getting ready to
this
play
murder, I know
basketball
exactly
like they
about
always
this
did.
murder.
Kevin
I
opened
know
fire on the
exactly
group
about this
because he
murder.
was
This
trying to
happened
hit
on
it
my
out.
block.
Instead,
Hank a
he hit
good
Hank
dude,
and
Slim.
killed him.
College student ain't
Later
never
on,
do
Kevin
nothing,
said in
bro.
court, "I shot the wrong
Yeah.
guy, but somebody had to
Look,
get it."
Look, I
Hank's
shot the
mother later
wrong guy.
described
Wow,
him as
nigga, you
so
knew who you
cold,
was looking
so
for.
heartless, so
Yeah.
ruthless. That same year,
Yeah,
on
now this
September 9th,
documentary
in
got
Oxon
me
Hill,
mad. That
Maryland,
nigga killed
Calvin
an
tracked
innocent
down Sean
person,
Burton
man.
and tried to kill him, shooting him multiple times
Yeah.
with a .380 caliber
Nigga killed
pistol.
an innocent person.
Later that same year,
Now
on
this young
December
got me
23rd,
mad.
Kevin
Now
and
this
Calvin,
young got
both
me
carrying
mad.
semi-automatic pistols,
See this story
opened
right
fire
here,
on a
y'all.
group of
This
men
how
gathered in
niggas
an
was just
enclosed
doing anything though. This right on this my block. My brother was out here. All these
July
people
12,
that they shot at was like 14.
19-year-old
Hank was the
Henry
oldest,
Hank
19.
Lloyd was outside Vineyard
Everybody
Baptist
else
Church
was young
at
as shit,
16th
bro. They
and D
shooting at
Streets
a
with a
crowd
group
of dudes
friends.
because
They were
one of
getting
his
ready
men
to play
get
basketball,
shot. And
like
he
they
knew
always
who
did.
shot him.
Kevin opened
That was
fire
crazy,
on the group
bro.
because he was trying
I was
to
like
hit it out.
7 when this happened. I still
Instead,
remember
he
this
hit
shit,
Hank
bro.
and killed him. Later on, Kevin said in court,
Look,
"I shot the wrong guy, but somebody
Wow,
had to get it."
nigga.
Hank's mother later described him as so cold,
And then Kevin
so
wasn't even the one that
heartless,
got
so
shot.
ruthless.
He was coming for
That same
somebody
year, on
else. You
September
feel me? He
9th,
ain't
in
get
Oxon
shot.
Hill,
He was
Maryland,
coming for
Calvin
somebody
tracked
else.
down Sean Burton and tried to kill him, shooting him multiple times with a .380 caliber pistol. Later that same year, on December 23rd, Kevin and Calvin, both carrying semi-automatic
that's who-
pistols, opened fire on a group of men gathered in an enclosed courtyard on the 3100 block
Yeah,
of
Calvin,
Robinson
his
Street.
real name
During that
Ace though.
shooting, Maurice Willis got hit in the arm.
Though.
On October
He
17,
from around that way. He the one that got
both men
shot.
took
And
plea
they
deals
come back
tied
and
to
shoot
that
some
shooting.
innocent kids.
Calvin pleaded guilty to assault with a dangerous weapon and carrying a pistol without a license. Kevin pleaded guilty to carrying a pistol without a license and 2 counts of simple assault. In return, prosecutors dropped the more serious charges, including assault with intent to kill while armed, and also dismissed other pending gun and drug cases. Police records showed Kevin was listed as a fugitive as of June 8, 1995, but he was later arrested and served his time. Joseph Froggy Thomas tried to rob one of Kevin's associates more than once, and eventually that associate told Frank, Fat Frank Howard Jr. about it.
They making them
Frank
niggas
basically
sound
told
like
him not to
Marvins.
worry about it, and
Fat
that he'd
Frank
get Kevin to
Howard
handle it.
Jr.
On February 27, 1996, Frank and Kevin were out on the 2800 block of Robinson when they spotted Joseph. Kevin stayed there and kept Joseph busy, basically stalling him, while Frank left and went to Fresh Gear, a store at 1511 Good Hope Road that was run by Murder Inc. member Ronald Goldchain's outfit. Frank came back with Bernard Gangster Franklin. Once they got back to the block, Frank
Hey,
pointed
these
Joseph
niggas
out.
killed 2
Bernard
people I
walked
knew
up
though, bro.
and shot
2
Joseph
good
dead.
ass people
And
too.
after it was over, the guy who had originally been having problems with Joseph rewarded Kevin for it. He gave him kilos of cocaine for free, and after that, he agreed to keep selling Kevin discounted kilos for $9,000 instead of $10,000.
Take 1,000.
Then, on May 19, 1996, Marco Smith was murdered, and on May 31st, Ricardo Edward Bailey was murdered too. When it came to Ricardo, there were basically 2 different stories about why Kevin killed him. One version was that Kevin did it for Rodman Lee, who was a major drug dealer. The theory there was that Kevin wanted to get in better with Rodman, so Rodman would start fronting him or supplying him with bigger amounts of drugs. But other people said Kevin had been telling people, including Frank, that he wanted Ricardo gone because he thought Ricardo was snitching, and also because he believed Ricardo was messing with his girlfriend, Monica Wright. On the day Ricardo got killed, one of their associates happened to spot him at an Exxon gas station. Coincidentally, Frank called that associate, and the associate told him he was standing there talking to Ricardo. Once Frank heard that, He immediately called Kevin and told him Ricardo was at the gas
See,
station.
that's how easy
After
you can
that,
get killed.
Kevin went over there himself and shot
Nigga
Ricardo.
ain't even mean to
After
give
the
up this
shooting,
drop and
Kevin
gave
and
up
Rodman
this
got
drop.
arrested while fleeing the scene.
Good.
When police searched Rodman's van, they found about 5 kilos of cocaine hidden in a secret compartment. Rodman ended up pleading guilty to those drug charges. Then on August 20th, 1996, Joseph Jones was murdered. A woman who lived in the area told investigators she heard Joseph stab somebody a few months earlier and that his murder might have been retaliation for that. And sometime that same year, Damian Evans sold Kevin a stolen car. When he found out, he was furious. Kevin, quote, couldn't believe somebody had the audacity to sell him a stolen car. So he grabbed a gun, got into a car with Frank, Dennis Robinson, and Jermaine, and started driving around looking for Damian. When they finally found him on the road, Kevin motioned for him to pull over like he just wanted to talk. But once Damian got out to speak with him, Kevin pulled out a gun and shot him point blank in
That
the
nigga ain't
face.
had no
On July
reason to
5th,
kill. He had the whole.
1996,
He was
Murder Inc.
already a
killed Garland
billionaire. He was just
Baskerville,
out
but his
killing.
body was not found right away. It sat there until July 8th, when a woman walking her dog found him slumped over the steering wheel of his car on 7th Street Northeast. His body was riddled with bullets, and police said he had already been dead for at least 2 days.
That's not nature's help.
Kevin
That's not nature's help.
playing, but
We always get this. Nature's own has simple ingredients with the same.
yeah, he
taste.
just
It's
said about
non-GMO
10,
verified.
12
Even sugar
murders.
whales
Kevin
on
and them
ingredients.
wasn't
She's
playing, man. Kevin and them wasn't playing.
Nature's own.
I got a
Educate
few
yourself.
minutes to watch this. This good right here. This is good. Whoever did this is a good documentary. Kevin ass wasn't playing. I know why he was killing people in Northeast though. He was from over Southeast. Like might be some go-go shit.
How might that impact markets? Find out on America.
I know one of them baddies he killed. That was bullshit. That was bullshit. I tell you that was bullshit.
Until August got injured, I never
One
heard
on
of Fisher
6
House.
Tape and D Street. That
It
was
made it very easy
bullshit.
to be there to
Everything
support
else
my
I don't know.
August had 20 surgeries. I don't know how my family all could have.
In 1996, Kevin got
In
Man,
1996,
well,
Kevin got
yeah,
locked up. But once he got back out, it did not take long for him to get right back in the game. Kevin and 2 other guys rented apartments in a building on Haley Terrace, and from there, they started selling drugs again. In late 1996, Rodney
that
met Oscar
motherfucker
Beale,
was
who ended up
crazy,
becoming one of the most important people in the whole case. He was not just another Murder Inc. member. He became one of their main killers, and later, one of the biggest cooperators who helped bring the whole organization down. By Oscar's own description, he was good at what he did. What made Oscar stand out was that his background did not look like what people expected. Before all this, he worked regular jobs. He was a bank teller, a car salesman, and even worked in fast food and construction. As a kid, he was arrested for stealing a car, and after getting help from an older relative, he got his GED, went to Georgia Military College, and even pulled a 4.0 GPA. He tried joining the Navy and did well enough on the entrance exam to catch a Marine recruiter's attention, and he made it into the Marines. He did really well at basic training, but got discharged once he admitted he had a juvenile arrest. After that, the regular jobs were not bringing in enough money to support himself and his family, so he started selling marijuana in D.C. Oscar was small time, but he earned street respect after standing up to a bigger dealer. He stalked that dealer, shot him in the head, and left him for dead, even though the guy ended up surviving. Oscar said Murder Inc. gave him guns, paid him well, and after the jobs were done, they would party and pop bottles of Cristal. The first major killing tied to Oscar was the murder of Evron Clyburn. A woman named Diane Luther had been selling drugs for Rodney, but she was supposedly trying to get clean and get out of the business. Diane got killed because she knew too much, and Evron had seen what happened to her. That made him dangerous too. On November 25th,
Just think how many
1996,
people would be getting
Rodney
killed
took Oscar to the
nowadays
area
who
around the
just
700 block
recording
of
or
H
seeing
Street,
some
where he
shit.
introduced him
That
to
shit
John
crazy.
Rayner and told him John would point Evron out. Rodney also laid out how it would go down, saying the men around Evron would back away and give Oscar room to shoot. Rodney wanted Oscar's face covered, so he took him to a sporting goods store on H Street and bought him an Atlanta Braves
Crazy
cap
part,
so he
that's
could
where the
better
nigga
hide
Roy
his
took
face.
me at to get my
Oscar said that
jersey
part
on
of what made him a
H Street.
valuable assassin
That's
was that he
crazy.
was not from DC. People did not really know him, and Rodney wanted to keep it that way. Rodney also drew him a map showing where to make the move and which alleys to run through afterward to get to the getaway car. When the moment came, Oscar walked up with a .357 revolver. Roy Johnson was standing there in a group with Evron, and Roy backed away as Oscar came towards them. Then Oscar shot Evron dead in broad daylight near H and 6th Streets Northeast, right next to a government
So
building.
my
Then
godfather,
Oscar
right,
ran
he
the route
must have
Rodney
got
had
in
already
bad with
planned
him, because you
and
see how
headed
they
to the
saying
alley where the
Roy, he
getaway
was
car was
doing
waiting.
this and doing that,
Oscar
helping
handed the
him.
.357
So he
caliber
must have did
revolver
something
back,
wrong.
since Rodney's uncle, Taryn Pee Wee Oliver, was the one who gave it to him. He got paid a brick of crack and a partial $1,000 payment right after the hit. Later, Rodney even joked about how Evron tried to dodge the bullets, saying he did a Barry Sanders move trying to get away. This murder earned Oscar an introduction to Kevin Gray. He said Kevin told him, "I heard what you did down there. You're all right." Kevin started using him as a hitman too, and told him he wanted him to help squash all the rival dealers on Haley Terrace, because he wanted it all for himself. Some of the murders Oscar carried out for Murder Inc. were jobs other people wanted done. For example, Kevin hired Oscar to kill Carlos Cardoza Jr. for Lionel Brotherman Nunn, because Lionel believed Carlos was cooperating with the government. Kevin also had Oscar go after Anthony Watkins for Lionel too.
On April 15th, 1997,
On April 15th, 1997, Richard Simmons was shot in the stomach. After that shooting, Richard said the man who shot him was somebody named Raheem. But just a couple months later, on June 30th, at around 9:50 at night, Richard got gunned down outside his clothing store in the 1100 block
Oh,
of
they
H
was
Street.
killing
Before the
on
murder
A
even
Street,
happened,
boy.
Rodney's cousin, Dion Oliver, was seen with the shooter, casing Richard's
See, and I
store.
think that's the
According
same
to
store.
sources
If
who
it's a
talked to the
green store, that's the
FBI,
same
Timothy
store.
Dog Handy
My
was the
godfather
actual
Roy, that's
shooter,
what we used
and
to
Maurice
always do it
Andrews
to
said
get
he
money
later
from
heard
and
Timothy
shit.
say that Richard's mother needed to be killed
Might
too,
be the same
because she had
store.
witnessed
Roy
the
was all
murder
the
and she knew him. Maurice Andrews also said the murder had been
Cobb,
arranged through
boy.
Kenneth Garmagoo Simmons for another drug trafficker. Kenneth would supply Kevin and Rodney with cocaine, and other times he was getting cocaine from them. He was also cooking powder cocaine up into crack. A big part of that operation ran through his business, Graffiti Sports, at 1208 H Street. Kenneth used that store to sell drugs and wash drug money. Even the store itself was bought with money he made from selling drugs. This was not the first time he tried to line up someone. In 1998, he was pushing a revenge plot against Robert "Rah Rah" Harris, because Robert killed Mustafi Lucky Miller in the 400 block of Q Street. And this was not just random street talk either. Robert was actually charged with Mustafi's murder. Then in June or July of 1998, Dion approached another Murder Inc. member about killing Robert, but that member passed on it because he did not trust Dion to keep his mouth shut. Then while they were at Graffiti Sports, Kenneth tried to get him to kill Robert too, and even offered him $7,000 to do it. Kenneth told him Robert sold marijuana around the 2000 block of Board Street and said he would be easy to find. He even gave him a photo of Robert and personally took him into that area to look for him. Rodney Bouyang Faison was a Murder Inc. member who started selling demos,
Hey, why they ain't
basically
put 'em
fake
back
cocaine,
on? Why they
on
got 'em
Hallie
out there
Terrace to
selling
make quick money,
demos?
which drove customers off and made Kevin and the other members furious. A woman heard Bouyang and Timothy Parker arguing around late December 1997. Then, on the night of January 3rd, 1998, Bouyang was lured into a car and driven to an apartment building at 2840 Robinson Place. A woman who lived there saw them getting out of a big off-white car in the parking lot and going inside. Then, just 2 or 3 minutes later, she heard gunshots. Right after that, she found Bouyang's body lying in the basement hallway. Then a few months later, in May 1998, Rodney hired Oscar to kill rival drug dealer Roy Cobb, because Rodney supposedly believed Roy wanted to rob him or kill him. For weeks,
Oh, so he
Rodney
was
and
talking
Oscar
about
were
a
looking
whole
for
different Roy.
and
He
Derek
wasn't
Moore
even talking
and Roy
about my
Johnson were
Roy
helping
when
with that too. Then on May 30th, 1998, Gary McNair heard Kevin, Rodney, and others talking about how they were going to take care of that business and get that guy that day, meaning Roy Cobb. Kevin and Rodney walked Oscar to a specific spot where they knew Roy Cobb would stop, at an intersection, and they told him how to carry the hit out. Oscar later said there had actually been a moment when he decided not to kill Roy Cobb, because he was dropping off his two little boys at a school near Capitol Hill in Trinidad, and Oscar thought there were too many white people around. Even though they kept adjusting the plan, Kevin ended up giving Oscar the gun that was used to kill Roy.
Hurt my
When the
soul
shooting
right here,
happened,
man.
Gary
Roy
was
is a
there.
great dude.
He even gave Oscar a black baseball cap to help
My
hide his
mother,
face. And the crazy part
mother
was,
husband,
Gary didn't
best
realize
friend.
at first that his own friend was the one being set up. It only hit him while the shooting was actually happening that Roy Cobb was the target. Afterward, Rodney paid Oscar with cash and cocaine.
Starting in 1997.
Starting in 1997, people connected to Murder Inc. started flipping and cooperating with the feds. They began giving up information about the drug trafficking, the guns, the violence, and the murders tied to the crew. They were also handing over phone numbers
Like, you
members
gotta
were
get out the
using,
streets,
and in some
man.
cases,
These supposed
they
to
were
be the
even helping
toughest of
record
toughest
conversations
guys,
while
too.
drug deals were being set up. By 1998, the FBI was actively surveilling them, making controlled buys, and raiding locations linked to Murder Inc. and its members. One of the biggest raids came on July 29, 1998, when agents searched the 4 rented apartments at 4329 Haley Terrace. Inside apartment 1, they found about 240 grams of crack, plus another 31 grams already broken down and packaged for sale. They also found more crack hidden outside under a doghouse. Agents also recovered a Calico 9mm assault rifle and a .44 caliber pistol, and that pistol had Jermaine Vick's fingerprints on it. David Lee Arnold, Jermaine, and other people were found inside apartment 4 and were arrested. But by the spring and summer of 1999, the FBI was saying those controlled buys were getting harder to pull off. Kevin and the rest of Murder Inc. had gotten too careful, too suspicious, and it was becoming too dangerous for cooperators to keep trying to record conversations or buy drugs from them. One example came on February 25, 1999. During an attempted drug buy, Kevin wanted to pat down one of the cooperators before handing over any drugs. The problem was that cooperator was wearing a wire. When he refused to let Kevin search him, Kevin said he knew it was hot, meaning he knew the guy was working with law enforcement. The cooperator managed to get away before things turned violent. Search warrants had their own downside too. If agents started hitting too many spots too fast, they risked tipping the whole crew off and pushing the operation even further underground. And as far as turning more people inside the organization, the Fed said that was not looking great either. They pointed to Jermaine, who got arrested after the Haley Terrace raid, but still refused to cooperate. So when the feds pushed for wiretaps, they got him. In the end, they ended up with more than 4,000 intercepted conversations.
Oh, how much time left in this? I can't finish this. Hey, thank y'all for watching. If anybody watching, this was a good ass documentary though. How much time, where that junk go? How much time I got left? Dang, I didn't clicked off of it. I'm gonna come watch. I got a dog walk at full. That was a good ass documentary though, if anybody was watching.